I know that my page is scholarship specific, but it doesn't mean that using scholarships is the only way that I paid for college. I paid for I paid for college not just with scholarships, obviously. I came from a low income background, so I needed to do other things. I needed to work in addition to trying to win scholarships and all of that. So definitely not just all about winning scholarships only. I think, for me, someone who took out student loans the first year I was in college, I knew I was going to have to work and do scholarships in order to like do what I wanted to do, which was graduate with a clean slate, debt free, and with some savings enough to get my own apartment. So that was my ultimate, starting point for me was like I knew after graduated I wanted XYZ, and then I just kind of worked backwards from there, which I made a vision board for, by the way. I know you guys see me posting about vision boards all the time right now because of our vision board challenge that is active right now. But yeah, I think that it's it's a good place to start with scholarships, but I ultimately think like depending on your background and like how much support you need, working is obviously not everyone has the luxury to go to college and not work. I also worked and did scholarships. Um so any scholarship recommendations for so a question in the chat, any scholarship recommendations for transfer scholarships or those for non-traditional students? Yeah, so we actually have a non-traditional student or adult learner list on the website. We do have that. And then also for transfer students specifically, I would look into more about where you're trying to transfer specifically. There's not many general anybody transfer student scholarships. It's not very common. It's like it's a transfer scholarship to a specific school. So that's why it's more important to like try to look for scholarships at the specific school you're trying to transfer to. But right now, we're one of the sponsors for a national essay competition that does include um, transfer students. So it's a $500 national essay competition from Girls on Campus. If you look up Girls on Campus National Essay Competition, it'll literally come up on Google. That I know is open to transfer students. And so, yeah, but it's not like exclusively for transfer students. There's not many scholarships out there that are exclusively for transfer students unless it's for a specific university. And the ones that are, right, they're not like, you know, they're for, not just transfer students, but for other people as well. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of a recap on, you know, the types of scholarships to look for. But like, yeah, whatever makes you a non-traditional student, try to find scholarships for that. Cause like non-traditional is a very broad term. Like there's a lot of different things and ways I guess you could be considered non-traditional. So just kind of think about the field you're in as well in terms of like, are you a traditional student in that field? For example, like a male nurse, like that's not super common. It's common but not common enough. Men are definitely the minority in a nursing field. Um so so like that's a good example of like what I mean by that. So um so, Dr. Thomas, there's approximately 4.7 billion in non-bear based scholarship out there. I don't really know what that means. Non-bear base. I don't know what that means. But sure. Um and then graduate school for sports. So, if you're looking for something specific for sports, you need to do like a separate search for that. There's not like oh yeah, here's a sports scholarship, you apply to it. You need to get recruited. So that's a totally different process. I focus on scholarships that are outside scholarships that you can use on at any school. So I recommend, you start there and look and try to do some research into the recruitment process in general first, because like that's not like really scholarship specific. That's like recruiting and athletic recruiting, and that's like a little bit different. So yeah. Okay. Do you have a scholarship for vocational nursing? So, guys, like, I don't know off the top of my head, right? Like, I don't know specific scholarships for specific things, right? But there are resources at the scholarshipcollected.com. So, like, anything we would know about would be on the scholarshipcollective.com or on go.scholarshipjunkie.com. Those are like the two places that we post different resources for different things: nursing, law school, medical school, graduate school, local scholarships. We post all different types of scholarships for all different types of things. It's just going to be a matter of you guys going through the resources and actually taking advantage of them. So yeah, like off the top of my head, I don't have a specific scholarship for every single scenario that exists out there, but they do exist. So it's a matter of just going through the resources that we provide and start there. What are some good words to search for pre-med, undergraduate scholarships, internships? I don't know what you mean by some good words to search, but I would say start with the databases. I don't know what you're like. I think, in terms of just the way you want to search, that's all going to be based off of your own personal characteristics. So I would start like with what you're interested in. If you know somebody who's biomed or in like who is doing what you're doing, reach out to them, see what they can give you in terms of advice, right? Like look for somebody who has a biomedical internship and, go and go try to talk to them, like I think when you're trying to look for something that specific, you kind of want to talk to someone who's done it before in that regard. So, okay. Tinka says, I just started my second semester of high school. Can I still apply for scholarships or wait for grades? Your second semester of high school. So you're a freshman. Or no, you're 11th grade. That's not semester. That's third year. So 11th grade. So I know you can start right now. Actually, it's actually preferred for uh 11th graders to start their process now, because when you're a senior in high school, you're going through a lot, you're doing a lot, you're applying to college, you're making a lot of decisions, and a lot of times students don't give themselves the time to get to the scholarship part where it's like it's already time to go to school and they haven't done a single thing with scholarships, as opposed to your junior year. Right now there are scholarships you can apply to right now, and then on top of that, there are so many scholarships you can apply to as a senior that you can be making your list for and preparing for the applications now, because not all scholarships are awarded in the year that they're due. So, like, for example, there are scholarships coming due in 2025 that are for next year, for 2026. So fall 2026, there's already scholarships open for next year. So you should probably think like in terms of what you want to do in terms of when you're going to start school. You should always be looking for scholarships 6 to 8 months minimum from when you actually need the money in your account and get dispersed, because you know it's not a 1, 2, 3 process. I don't know what, sometimes people think like scholarships are like a quick thing. It's not how it works. You may, a scholarship may be due at the end of January. It may take them a month to get through, maybe even 2 months to get through all the applications. So you're going on 2 months now, and then they may disperse the money actually in August. So it's like, it's not really, you really need to be doing it, before you need the money. There's still some out there, of course, that like, you get it, you award it, and it's, awarded in the next, 2 weeks from when you were chosen. But that's not the norm. That's usually with smaller organizations with smaller dollar amount in scholarships. So things that like actually move the needle are gonna take a longer process time. I've applied to scholarships where I didn't hear back that I got the scholarship for 6 months. So I think it's really important for you guys to, get yourself prepared in 11th grade for timelines, deadlines, all that stuff, because that's the biggest thing that seniors tell me is like, I wish I would have started earlier. And that's really, it's the truth. You really should be starting much, much earlier than a lot of high school seniors do. Even if you start right now, like right now as a high school senior who's, already applied to college and stuff for the most part, you're still going to have a lot of time compared to someone who's waiting till July to start thinking about scholarships for college in the fall. So it's never too late. You just got to keep yourself organized and in mind. So that's really important. Um, yes, there are scholarships for, yes, I'm aware, Dr. Thomas, I'm aware that there's scholarships for all different things, right? But we're talking about the norm, right? If you have off the top of your head 10 scholarships for transfer students that are only for transfer students right now, feel free to put them in the chat. But that's not the norm, is what my point is in saying that. Um, so Sandy says, do they award you if notified? If you're awarded, or do they notify you if you're awarded? Yes, of course. If you get awarded a scholarship, they absolutely are going to respond to you and tell you that you got the scholarship. But something to keep in mind, like a lot of times, like for example, even jobs, like when you're applying to jobs, you don't always get a call back from the job like, hey, you didn't get it. Like you don't always get an email saying, oh, your application's been denied. Same thing with scholarships. You're not going to get a response from every single organization about whether you got the scholarship or not. You're only going to get it if you got the scholarship, not if you didn't get the scholarship. So I would, I think like a lot of organizations post like when they're going to choose winners and when they plan to contact people. So if you just got to think, if you're not contacted within a couple of weeks of the window they gave, then you didn't get it. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not going to win every scholarship that you get, that you apply to, and that's okay. Should I create a specific email for scholarships? Sure, that's fine. There, you can create a specific email for scholarships. I think that helps with people who are actually going to check it. Like I've heard of students doing that, but then not actually like using, not checking in on it and using the email. I also think doing that will prevent you. I recommend doing it just for the fact that, so I've had a student who, was using their personal or their school email, and then they graduated from high school, didn't have access to the email anymore, didn't have their personal email on the application, didn't have a scholarship email or anything on the application, and ended up like not, like they forfeited their award essentially because they didn't respond in whatever timely manner that they were given, and they didn't get the scholarship because even though they were chosen, they didn't end up getting it because they missed the email notification that they actually got the award. So I think it can never hurt to have a separate email for the scholarships and all your applications. But at the same time, as long as you're using an a email that you're going to have access to, regardless of what school you're going to, college, high school, then you should be fine. It's just going to be a matter of like what's easiest for your specific situation and how you want to organize yourself. So yeah. What are the best platforms or keywords to search up for scholarships outside of your website? So you would use your personal characteristics about yourself, if my answer doesn't change, and you would search up those words. Whatever it is about yourself, I don't know you, I don't know anything about you, but you would use different things about yourself, things that you're interested in, things that, about your life. I've had people win scholarships for things about themselves. Like one of my students, they had like this back condition or whatever, skin condition, and they went to the dermatologist for it a few times, and there was literally a scholarship out there for someone who was it someone who has an experience to share about dermatology and how it's helped their life. And that was a scholarship that they applied to and won because it was a very specific thing about themselves that no one could know but them. So you need to think about what's specific about you that you can try to find scholarships for. And that's what's going to tell you what to search up, what the keywords are. The keywords are whatever your personal characteristics are, and only you know that information. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question for that. And so, in general, I would say, when you're talking about, college, I think a lot of people just focus on, just in general, like they focus on like the right now costs of going to college, like, oh, I got to get my flight, I got to get my books and all that stuff. And they don't think about like the actual like impact of like student loans and stuff. So for me, it was, when I was taking out those loans freshman year, I saw that as like, damn, like that's the cost to go to college, that's expensive, like I need to figure out another way. And so for me, it was, I needed to learn about the student loans. Like what was I signing my name on this document for? Like what am I actually saying? And when I understood like what the loans are and what they mean, subsidized loan and versus a subsidized loan and all those things. Once I started to understand what those things meant, it gave me like a path and a strategy to like actually start to pay off my student loans while I was still in college. Once I started winning scholarships and my stuff was covered, I was using the money from my internship to actually pay for the loans that I took out in the beginning. And for me, that was extremely important because without doing that, I would be right now, after graduating college, I'd be paying off student loans instead of putting money towards whatever it is I want to put money towards it right now. And, whether that's an apartment, your car, saving up for a house, like all of those things get delayed with student loans. So that's something I knew I didn't want it after graduation. So that's a big reason that I decided, like, okay, I need to learn what it is that student loans are. Like, I took it out my freshman year not knowing anything about what they really are and like what it means after graduation. And I basically used a calculator to see how much my student loan payments would be. And it was like, I think it was like 480 or something like that. And I was like, that's a lot of money, like per month that to pay. So I need to figure out how to like pay that off before I graduate, essentially. So that was like my wake up call. Do you think the time you apply for a scholarship matter? Like, what if you turn it in the day before the deadline? So, um, do I think the time that like when you apply to a scholarship matters in terms of the deadline? So I think it matters from the perspective that I've seen quite a few students get burned by trying to do it the day before. Um, a lot of times, not all the time, but sometimes when organizations know that they're not going to have the manpower to, go through a certain amount of applications and maybe a scholarship was more popular than they thought, they'll close the application early with no warning, no anything. And then if you like took time to do the scholarship application and you you waited till the day before and you didn't know it was closed already, that kind of like throws a wrench in the plans of the whoever was trying to apply. So I always say, it doesn't matter if the scholarship is still open. The only time it matters is when you have a situation where it closes early, and that's happened to three of my students before. Three of the students I coached waited till the last minute, and the scholarships were closed early. So I highly recommend not doing that. I recommend, especially when you think about how long a window is open, right? So when I think about how long a scholarship's been open and I look up and I see, okay, this scholarship has been open since November 1st. So I'm like, okay, if it's December and it's due in February, I probably, this is not a big deal. Like, I'm not getting anywhere near close to the deadline. I could probably wait till January and be fine. Versus maybe a scholarship that opens in January, closes in January, like you don't have, if it's only 3 weeks, 4 weeks opening, it's not going to make a difference if you do the day before. They're not going to close it early when the window is already that short. Most of the time when stuff is closed early and scholarships are closed early, it's because the scholarship has a longer window open than normal. So, like I said, to each his own. I think turning it in the day before the deadline is just probably not, the best idea for your own sake, but, never gonna hurt, turning it in early, in my opinion. So I think, a lot of people, and I think, in general, like outside of the scholarships and stuff, I don't think a lot of people understand, like, their choices, like, oh, public university versus a private university. Private universities are very expensive. When I was applying to college, I didn't really know that. I wasn't really thinking about that. Public universities are cheaper, and they're cheaper if you are in the state that your public university is in. So I think, kind of thinking about those things, before I made my college decision would have been helpful. I don't think it would have changed my college decision. I still like the school that I chose, but I think a lot of people like get into school and like paying for a degree and paying for something without actually knowing what they want to do, and or not knowing, like, trying to figure out what they want to do. And there's nothing wrong with trying to figure out what you want to do, but all I know is that if I'm putting down you know hundreds of thousands of dollars to get a degree, I want to be kind of relatively sure what I want to do before I do that. So I think, in general, I feel like there needs to be more outside of just paying for college, student loans, scholarships. I think there needs to be more career discovery and more like in the high schools, I'm saying, like career discovery, understanding like what it is that you actually want to major in, understanding that stuff before you get into college versus wasting years, not really knowing and then having to pick something because you're now forced to as a junior. I think that's also a part of the problem with student loans and stuff, is like people are taking these things out with no job prospects in mind, in terms of like, oh, how much am I going to be making after graduation? Does this degree make sense? Does this amount make sense? So I think that's also a huge factor with how we choose colleges, and the cost of college is going up every year, even with public universities. So it's like getting a high ROI degree, I feel like, is honestly like probably one of the most important things for whether your degree is going to be, whether the cost of it is justified, regardless of whether you win scholarships or not. I think that's important. And I think a lot of people don't really think about this at all, if I'm being honest. Like, they don't think about, what it is their life is going to look like after graduation, what kind of career they actually want to pursue. And you don't need to know everything perfectly, but at least have some ideas of the types of jobs that are available for your major, and the types of, salaries that those jobs pay after graduation. Because if you have the idea of both of those things, then it might make sense for you to pay $20,000 a year for a school, because you're going to be able to pay it off after graduation. So I think that's like a huge factor. Understanding your cost benefit. I think understanding your cost benefit is really important. I think college is so shoved down everyone's throats nowadays that like no one actually takes the time to like be like, okay, does this make sense for me in my life and what I want to do? Because there are certain things you may not even need to go to school for to be successful at. So if there's something that, a student wants to do that doesn't require a degree, then after graduation from high school, start building your business, building what you want to do. Because, not every, you can get a certification without getting a degree. There's so many licenses and certifications you don't need a college degree for out there. So I think that's also like a big part of, college costs. And, people are going to college not knowing what the heck they want to do, and if their degree is actually going to yield any positive ROI from a salary perspective. So I think that's really important. Exactly. Esther, like real estate, that's a great example. Real estate is a great example of that. You just, you pass a test, you get a license, and you start working. Like, think about it from this perspective too. If you are someone who like knows you want to be a real estate agent, it might be worth your while to, to try and get, some real estate, stuff like experience. And like maybe you get your associate's degree, you can work 2 years earlier, meaning that you have more, you have more chance to build contacts before the people who are in college or even out of college. So you got 2 years working ahead of those people. Like there's a lot of benefits. And I think that, real estate is one of the great examples of, something you need a license for, but not a degree. Even though a lot of people who have, their real estate license have a degree, it's like, it's not crucial for, real estate. So I think that that's like, I think that's important to understand. Um, I think scholarship opportunities, like, obviously scholarship opportunities like reduce the cost of school, and like that's, the biggest thing that I speak about. But there's a lot of other ways, to pay for school. When I was in college, I had 6 different internships, each of them progressively paying more than the next one. My first internship I ever did I got paid, I think, $14 an hour for the first internship I ever had. And at the time, before I got that first internship, I was making $10 an hour on campus, doing some random miscellaneous campus job. And so $14 an hour looked really good, because I was like, oh, okay, $14 an hour, like that's way better than the 10 I'm getting just sitting on campus. And it's relevant to what I maybe want to do one day in my actual career. So that learning experience, led me to apply for more internships and more internships. And like, I didn't get them all. I didn't get interviews for them all, but putting myself out there early, like really helped me stand out, because people were like, you're a freshman. Like, why are you applying for these opportunities? And I'm like, cause I can, so I think, putting yourself out there is important, and it helped me, get higher paying internships throughout my college career. My second internship that I got was $15 an hour, so not much more than the other one. And then at my third internship was $25 an hour. That was a big jump. And I wasn't even working full time for that one. I was working part time, 20 to 30 hours a week. And, I actually enjoyed that experience, and I did it again. I did the same internship again the next spring because I liked it, and it made good money compared to what I was making on campus. And then both summers, I did 2 summer internships as well. There were tax internships, and both of those internships paid $34 an hour. So yeah, like I think, internships, making money, like, I made thousands of dollars that summer. and I used most of it to pay off the loans I took out a freshman year. And then moving forward, I didn't have to take out any loans because I had won scholarships. So it's like, I think it's a combination of many things that you kind of need to graduate debt free when you come from a low income background like I do. I don't think like, there are some people who like don't even have, don't have to work during college, and that's okay. You know, don't worry about it. Like that's good for them. But for a lot of lower income students, like it's really not an option. So for me, working was really, really, really important, but I wanted to make sure I was doing jobs that actually like could help my career in the future or could help me build connections in the field that I wanted to be in. Like, yeah, I could have kept working at Dunkin' Donuts, like, and made money, but like it wouldn't have helped me at all in terms of my career. So that's why I was just seeked out internships very, very early. So, so how did you find the internships? So, in terms of the internships, the first thing I did, like when I was a freshman and I, wasn't really, I didn't know anything. When I was a freshman, I was literally only looking on LinkedIn my freshman year. And then halfway through my freshman year, I reached out to my career center and I said, hey, like, I know I'm a freshman, but I really want to kind of get in here early and like understand like where to look for internships and where to look for different things, right? So I ended up asking them that question, and they gave me a website called Handshake. And so a lot of Handshake partners with a lot of different universities for internship programs and stuff, but it also has like open applications that anybody can apply to. So I used Handshake and LinkedIn a lot. Handshake is where I got my LinkedIn is where I got my first internship from. Handshake is where I got my second internship from. And also, I also want to just talk about the fact that, in terms of internships and like, when you're in an internship, it's really important for you to actually like take in everything from the internship. Like, I know a lot of people who, do an internship and they kind of just ride the wave. Like, when I do an internship, when I was doing internships, genuinely try to make connections and try to make like, relationships with the people who were there, because you never know where that is going to, lead to. You never know, right? So my very first internship that I did, I applied to on LinkedIn, got it on a whim. I literally got the internship, and they called me like a week before the internship was supposed to start. And I was like, oh shit, like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. Whatever, right? And then at that internship, I met a former office managing partner of one of the biggest firms in the world. For my area, and they literally were like, hey, you know, I'm glad that you have the internship here, like that's awesome. Do you want to intern other places? So he connected me with all these different firms in the area that were like, really prestigious firms, and I ended up getting my next internship that summer with one of the companies that he gave me. So, my third and fourth internship were a result of the first and second internships relationships that I had built. So I think when you're talking about like doing an internship, like get the work experience, but more importantly, get the relationships that you build with people. Like, genuinely try to build a relationship with the people that you're, working with. Because I think that more is going to help you, especially when, you're in a crowded market of like, associates and entry level people who all have the same background as you. I think that can make you stand out more than anything, is having that relationship, and you can build your own relationships. I didn't have like, a rich father who knows all the big wigs and all that stuff. No, I put myself out there. I worked my ass off, and I talked to different people, and that eventually led to me getting an opportunity that other people wouldn't have gotten. So I, think that's important, is putting yourself out there. Esther, that's a good question. Did you intern during the school year or summer? Both, actually. I really was grinding in college. Like, I'll say it again. Like, I was really grinding in college. I did school year internships and summer internships because like I wanted to get as much experience as possible. So I did do spring semester internship, and I did a summer internship. I did multiple internships. Actually my junior and senior year, I did back to backs. I did spring, summer back to back. And then, yeah, then I accepted a full time role. So I didn't do any internships after that. But I did intern during both the summer and the spring, and I had to be strategic with that because I had to pick easier classes that I knew I could manage in the spring, and I think I did one less class because my internship counted for, like, I got paid for my internship, but it also counted for 3 credits. So I basically picked like 3 or 4 easier classes that I knew were going to be relatively easy, and then I did and then I did the internship as well. So I did one of the classes that I was doing. I knew it was going to be hard, but there was no other time to take it. So, but I was able to manage it, do working, and again, I was working 5 hour days. Right, I wasn't working full time. I was working part time in the during the school year. So, um, but I still had a lot of stuff going on. But I was in all these different extracurriculars. I was student body president. I had a lot of stuff going on, but I made it work because at the end of the day, your work experience is the most important thing you know, about when you are done and you're done with college and you're actually trying to get your career going. Like, work experience matters. So that's why I wanted to focus on it so much. Would you recommend fellowship programs or internships for college? Yes, of course. I think fellowship and internship programs are great. I think internships give you a little bit more flexibility. I think fellowships sometimes, depending on the way the fellowship is structured, fellowships sometimes can be restricting. Like sometimes fellowships like don't let you do other things while you're in the fellowship, like so you can't like do other jobs or do other things. Versus internships, it's like internships like you work the hours that they tell you to work, and then what you do outside your free time is like on you. You do whatever you want. So fellowships are still good, but sometimes fellowships are a little bit restricting. So just make sure when you're applying to fellowships, you read what the restrictions are, if any, before you like commit yourself to it. Some of them fellowships are typically longer than internships. Internships are usually like 3 months, maybe 4, depending, and they might extend you if they like you. But fellowships usually are not like just a couple months. They're usually like a whole year, which means like they're gonna make you do more stuff, which is like why you can't do more. So I think that depending on how well the fellowship pays and like how good it is with like, is it just one semester or is it a whole year? Like you can do fellowships as well. I think fellowships are better for like grad school, in my opinion, because you kind of want that stability of having a fellowship. You have a consistent income coming in, and it's probably relevant to whatever you're studying. So I think the fellowships are better for grad school. But I encourage as many internships as possible for high school. I mean, for college for sure. What are fellowships? So fellowships are essentially, normally it depends, some places call things a fellowship that are not a fellowship, but a lot of times what a fellowship is you get an opportunity to learn something, whatever the fellowship is about, right, and get paid to do that. So for it's different from an internship because a lot of times fellowships will have some other criteria attached to it. For example, you may have to be a teacher's assistant, or you may have to do, research hours and other things outside of just doing the work that you're supposed to be doing during the fellowship. So that's why I say it usually has a little bit less flexibility. And it's usually longer. Fellowships, like typically, even though they're with a company and they're meant for learning, they're really meant to kind of groom you to work there one day. So, like a lot of people will do a fellowship at a place they really want to work because they like, after graduation, they're like, yes, like I want to work there full time. So you get a full year to kind of like learn the landscape and stuff. Like I said, fellowships are better for graduate school, in my opinion, than college. Even though there are college fellowships out there, if they're short, like 3 months, 2 months, then do them. But if they're long, like a year, consider the other factors that may affect your life around that time. Yeah, I think that's important. Make sure if you guys are enjoying the live that you double tap the screen, give us some love. Let's put some love in the feed. Make sure if you're enjoying the live, you double tap that screen for me. We're going to be going live for about 10 to 15 more minutes. So make sure that if you have questions, you ask me, because I'm a very open book with pretty much everything. So, if you have questions about, anything about my experience, either in college or post college, early career, I'm very open to answering all your questions. Just drop the comment in the comments and double tap the screen, and I will get to it as soon as possible. But yeah, so creating so our vision board challenge. I'm going to talk about our vision board challenge for two seconds after I answer this question. If someone wins a lot of scholarships more than tuition, will it transfer to future semesters? So, Esther, that's a great question. So, if someone wins a lot of, I'm going to repeat the question so everybody hears it. If someone wins a lot of scholarships more than the tuition, will it transfer to future semesters? So, that is a great question. So that wholly and totally depends on your individual college's financial aid policy about what they decide they're going to do about that. Some colleges practice something called scholarship displacement. And that's essentially where they won't allow you that to happen where you have more scholarships than the cost of attendance. What they'll do is they'll reduce other types of aid that are not student loans, but like other types of aid, like for example, like your financial aid or something like that. They might reduce that in order to make sure you don't go above that, whatever. But most of the time, you can talk to the office and be like, "Hey, I don't want you reducing my aid. You need to reduce my student loans or my XYZ or let me defer it for XYZ amount of time." And some states it's actually illegal to practice scholarship displacement. I think it's New Jersey, maybe that's one of the states that you're not even allowed to do that. But yeah, but yes, most of the time if you communicate, even if your school does practice scholarship displacement, if you can talk to the scholarship awarder, like whichever one is going to be the most flexible, and literally just say like, "Hey, this school is going to reduce my aid if you guys give me this scholarship this semester. Can you wait until next semester, or can you wait until next year?" And have them defer it. That way they can't reduce your aid by XYZ amount. And I think that's the best way to kind of handle a situation like that. And then the schools that don't practice scholarship displacement at all, they'll just have a credit to your account. So multiple semesters in a row, I've gotten thousands of dollars in refund checks when I had that situation happen. So it was my junior year and my senior year, 3 semesters in a row. I had more scholarships than what my school actually cost, and I got thousands of dollars in refund checks for 3 semesters straight. I think in total it was like 10 grand, and that like obviously on top of doing internships and all that stuff, I was paying off those student loans, and then I actually used that money to I saved it and I used it to move into my first apartment after graduation. So yeah, like hopefully you have a school that doesn't do that and practice the displacement at all, and they just give you the money at the end of the semester, because that's what my school did. So but yeah, like every school is different with how they handle every school is different with how they handle that. Make sure if you guys are enjoying the live, you double tap the screen. Let's get to like 3,000 likes before we get off the live today. Get a live goal of 3,000 likes. Let's get that done. Um, yeah, of course. I try to answer everybody's questions who ask me a question in the live. I'm always gonna try to make sure I do that because you never know, might help somebody. You never know, man. Um, if you got, just in case, if you're in the United States and TikTok gets banned, you can follow me on Instagram. I post pretty similar content on Instagram. I've actually been posting a lot more on Instagram. Like, if you followed me for a while, you might know I post way more content on Instagram now than I did in the past year because I knew something like this may be coming. Last year, I doubled down on Instagram, and I've grown quite a bit since then. When I first started Instagram, like going hard body on Instagram, I think I had like 8,000 followers, and literally yesterday we crossed 124,000 followers in a year, in a little bit over a year. So that's like a huge testament to like me trying to like shift my platform to Instagram, slowly but surely. Like I'm at about half the amount of followers on TikTok that I am on Instagram, so it's like I feel like that's a pretty good pace considering like, this may go TikTok may go away entirely. Um I'm also going to probably start posting on YouTube. Like, my idea was to probably use these lives, like, kind of do a live stream and then post it to YouTube. Just start small, like, because I feel like a lot of the stuff that I give you guys in the lives, like a lot of the questions that I answer, could help a lot of different people. And so I just feel like, every time I go live, I'm like, it doesn't really matter how many people are in the live if I can use the live stream and go ahead and, give it put it online. If I put my live stream online, then you guys are able to learn from it, even after the live is over. So I think that that's like super important. But you're welcome, Esther. I appreciate it. Yes, guys, we hit 3K. Thank you guys so much for the love. Before I get out of here, I'm going to give you guys a little overview of some of the resources that I am in charge of. So this first one is the Scholarship Collective. So you might have heard of the Scholarship Collective and just not known that was me. But I'm the founder of the Scholarship Collective. It's a bi-weekly newsletter. We send out a newsletter every Sunday and every Wednesday. Sunday is scholarships in general, all types of different advice, and on Wednesdays we post specifically about state and local scholarships in the U.S. So that's what we post about on the Scholarship Collective in the newsletters and stuff. If you sign up for the Scholarship Collective, you'll get an email every Sunday and every Wednesday until I die, probably. So, yeah, that's the place that people don't really know that I'm the founder, but I am. And on this website, we also post a bunch of different scholarship opportunities. And we post a lot of different blog content about winning scholarships, giving tricks and tips and stuff like that. So this is a great opportunity for people who just need like kind of like a overview of scholarship resources and guidance. Also, on top of that, I have a branded website for the Scholarship Junkie brand, which is basically just my website where I post, different things. I post lots of different things. I post, the different winners that we've had throughout the years. I really got to update this. I've gotten so many more since, these guys won in the last few years, just so you can learn a little bit more about me and then also see all of our resources. Like we have a ton of different resources. And one of them is Scholarships Near Me. That's like a great state and local scholarship based database that we have. We have a lot of, and this, anything on the Scholars Corner, like resources and stuff, are free, completely free products. And then we have like paid products on the Ambitious Scholar Store. And then we have memberships where you can work with, my coaches and us in the program. So, the memberships are great too. We have 2 memberships now. And there's a bunch of different resources on the Scholars Corner on this website. We have a free scholarship list. We have a free email course. We have a free ebook. We have multiple different cheat sheets for all different kinds of things that you want to learn about. And so, we have a lot of different content and resources. Almost all of the resources are on go.scholarshipjunkie.com, but for more like general scholarship stuff, it's going to be on the Scholarship Collective. And our services and stuff are also on the Scholarship Collective. But for like, resources and products and memberships, that's all on this website. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to the live and chill. I will post a live recording so people also can learn from this. And hopefully I'm going to start going more live sooner. I'm going to try, like,